The first red flag wasn't the hold. It was the way they said it, like the hold was a weather system that had drifted in from somewhere else, and nobody could be blamed for rain. Angela Hart had walked through plenty of hard days in her life. She had raised kids with a tight grocery budget. She had worked school shifts that started before dawn. She had watched relatives get sick, recover, relapse, and recover again. She knew what real problems looked like. This one arrived in a clean envelope and a calm voice, dressed up as policy. Her husband Leon died on a Tuesday, and the word Tuesday never sounded normal again. In the beginning, everything moved in strange, slow motion. The call, the drive, the parking lot, the first faces that wouldn't meet her eyes, the way time became a hallway you couldn't leave. Leon was not the kind of man people called dramatic. He was the kind of man who kept receipts. He fixed the hinge before it squealed. He wrote down the mileage when he got gas. He checked the lock twice, not because he was paranoid, but because he believed in being prepared. He was also a union man. Not in the loud, chest-out sense. In the practical sense. He paid dues for decades. He showed up. He voted. He kept the booklet in a drawer with the house papers because he believed that what was written down mattered more than what people promised out loud. Leon worked a heavy job that paid steady but took a tax from your body. He came home with shoulders that carried their own weather, hands that stayed rough no matter what lotion did, and that tiredness behind the eyes that only working people recognize. He liked small routines, coffee the same way, lunch cooler packed the same way, keys in the same bowl, a life built on habits so the world could not easily knock it over. Then it did. The union moved fast at first. They had a process. They had a protocol. They had people trained to step in when a family is still speaking in broken sentences. They sent a representative to her house with forms. They explained what was available: a death benefit, a survivor pension process, and a group life insurance policy Leon carried through the employer plan. The rep spoke gently, but the information came in dense blocks, the way complicated systems always come. Angela nodded through it, even when words blurred. She was a black widow in her early 50s, and she had never pictured herself needing to learn the language of claims and benefits and disbursement pipelines. In her marriage, Leon handled payments. Angela handled everything that made a house feel like a home. It was a division that worked until it didn't. Now she had to do grief and administration at the same time, and that combination is brutal. Grief makes you forget where you put your keys. Administration punishes you for forgetting. A few days after the funeral home meeting, she sat at her kitchen table with a folder that grew thicker each day. Death certificate copies, marriage certificate, insurance forms, employer confirmation, a list of phone numbers written in the margins of an envelope. Every document felt like a passport through a gate that kept moving. The insurer approved the life insurance claim faster than she expected. That approval should have been the first breath of relief. Instead, it became the first moment she realized how many hands could touch her money before she ever did. The insurer's confirmation explained that the payout had been authorized and would be released by direct deposit through their banking partner. Leon had banked at Northbridge for years because payroll was linked to it. His direct deposits went there. His auto-pay drafts came out of there. The mortgage was tethered to it like a leash. Angela assumed the payout would drop in and life would stabilize just enough for her to think again. On the scheduled day, she checked the balance like people check a heartbeat. Refresh. Refresh again. Still nothing. She called the insurer. They confirmed the funds were released. They even gave her a transaction reference that sounded official enough to be real. They told her to call the bank because on their side, the payment had left. That call to the bank was where her stomach first tightened in a new way. The representative confirmed the deposit was received. That should have been the end. Instead, she heard a pause, a click of a keyboard, and then that phrase, delivered with practiced softness. The funds were on hold for fraud risk review. Not that there was fraud, not that there was a suspicious person, not that there was a specific issue, just a risk, a category, a machine-made suspicion that didn't have to prove itself. It only had to slow her down. Angela asked what the risk was. She asked who flagged it. She asked what information was missing. The representative could not or would not tell her. He said the system flagged it. He said it was routine. He said she could visit a branch with identification. He said it could take several business days to clear. Several business days is a harmless phrase until your mortgage is due, your utility drafts are scheduled, and the funeral home expects payment the way hungry animals expect food. Those days were not theoretical. They were lined up like dominoes. Angela drove to the branch with her folder and a tight jaw. Northbridge's branch was bright and calm, in a way that felt insulting. The lobby had the right temperature, the kind that says, "Comfort is available here, just not for you." The carpet was spotless, the pens were heavy, the brochures were arranged in little perfect stands. Everything looked like a place designed to make conflict feel inappropriate. A young banker greeted her with a smile that stayed the same, no matter what she said. He asked for her identification. He asked for Leon's identification as well, as if Leon might show up to confirm he had died. Angela handed him the death certificate. He glanced at it and set it down too lightly, like the paper didn't have weight. He explained the hold the way people explain a routine inconvenience. Large deposits sometimes trigger flags. Accounts with recent changes sometimes trigger flags. The system was protecting her. Angela asked what recent changes. The banker said he couldn't see details. Angela asked what else they needed to verify her identity. She had her identification. She had her marriage certificate. She had the insurer's approval notice. She had Leon's employment confirmation. She had the death certificate. She had the bank account statements showing she had been on the account for years. The banker listened with that blank professionalism that feels like a wall. Then he delivered the next part, the one that changes the temperature of a room. He said the funds could not be released until the review completed. And the review, he said, could take time. Angela asked for a manager. The manager arrived and used better words, but said the same thing. He spoke about compliance. He spoke about fraud prevention. He spoke about regulation. He spoke as if the bank was an innocent bystander, trapped by rules, rather than the entity deciding how hard those rules hit her. Angela told him the truth. She needed the money to keep her life from falling apart. She had bills that did not pause for reviews. The mortgage draft would hit soon. The burial expenses were already on a credit card. She had a part-time school paycheck that did not cover everything. She needed access now. The manager offered something he framed as helpful, a partial release by cashier's check, but only after she signed an indemnity statement, and only after internal approval. Angela understood enough to realize what that meant. They wanted her to sign a document to get a portion of her own money, while the rest stayed locked. They wanted her to accept their pace and their terms. She asked why she, of all people, was being treated as the risk. The manager's eyes flicked once, quick, and then he went back to policy language. He did not answer the question directly. He described patterns. He described what bad actors do. He described how criminals exploit death. In that moment, Angela felt the category form around her like a tightening ring. She was not being treated as a grieving spouse. She was being treated as a potential scheme. She walked out of the branch with her folder pressed to her chest. That evening, she did what people do when they're suddenly forced into the role of investigator. She started reading. She searched for hold policies. She read about fraud review. She read about account freezes after death. She read about beneficiaries and estate complications. She read about people who waited weeks, sometimes longer, while banks performed security rituals on money that was never theirs to begin with. She found language that sounded familiar: risk, verification, review, protect, comply. And she found something else: stories that didn't always match her own situation. Many holds happen when the beneficiary is not on the account. Many holds happen when the account is retitled improperly. Many holds happen when a deposit goes into an account that was just opened. Angela had been on the account. The insurer had already approved the claim. The deposit was legitimate. The bank had no missing document. So why was the hold still there? The next morning, she called the union hall. Not because she thought a union could override a bank, because she needed someone who spoke fluent system. The receptionist recognized Leon's name and her voice softened immediately. She transferred Angela to a benefits coordinator named Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson listened without interrupting. That mattered. Angela explained the approval, the deposit, the hold, the branch manager's tone. Mr. Dawson did not sound surprised. That was the part that made Angela's stomach drop again. When professionals are not surprised, it means you are not the first. He asked if she had Leon's contract booklet. He told her what color it was and where union men usually keep it. Angela found it in a drawer with the house deed and the car paperwork. Leon had filed it like he was filing for the day he wouldn't be there to explain it. Mr. Dawson walked her through the benefits section. He had her find the life insurance provisions, then the disbursement clause. Angela read it slowly, letting the words land. The clause did not mention Northbridge by name. It did not need to. It described an obligation. Once the claim was approved, the beneficiary must be provided timely access without unreasonable delay. It described an escalation path through the Union Benefits Trust if a financial institution created delay. It listed contacts. It outlined time expectations. It sounded like a contract written by people who had seen families get trapped before. Angela felt an almost physical shift, like a door had been located in a room she thought had none. Mr. Dawson told her he would make calls. He told her not to call the branch again because the branch had no incentive to solve this quickly. The branch could hide behind the system. Corporate compliance could not hide as easily once another institution started documenting every minute. That is the part most people never see. Systems move when other systems start watching them. Mr. Dawson contacted the Union Benefits Trust. The trust contacted the benefit administrator. The administrator contacted the insurer. The insurer contacted Northbridge's corporate benefits unit, not the branch. Names with titles got added to an email chain. A compliance specialist entered the picture, then a supervisor, then someone with an executive-sounding role. Angela did not know any of that in real time. She just noticed that the next call she received from the bank sounded different. A woman introduced herself as a senior resolution specialist. Her tone was careful. Her voice had the kind of calm that comes from understanding consequences. She confirmed there was a hold. Then she asked whether Angela had imminent obligations related to funeral expenses and mortgage drafts. That question alone told Angela what had changed. The bank was no longer speaking to her like a random customer. The bank was speaking to her like a case file that had been escalated. Angela said yes, she had obligations. She had dates. She had receipts. She had a funeral home contract and a mortgage that did not care about her stress level. The specialist said the bank would expedite. Angela asked why it had not been expedited before. The specialist answered in the only way corporate systems answer when they want to sound helpful without admitting wrongdoing. She said they received additional verification through the benefit administrator. She said they were able to complete the review. What she didn't say, but Angela understood anyway, was that the union had forced a different process. A process with accountability. Within hours, the bank released part of the funds. By the end of the day, the full deposit cleared. Angela refreshed her account and stared at the balance as if it might vanish again. Relief came, but it came late and mixed with something bitter. Because if the money could be released that quickly once the union leaned in, then the delay was never inevitable. The delay had been a choice. That night, she paid the funeral home. She paid the mortgage. She covered the utility drafts. She paid down the credit card. She did it with the mechanical focus of someone stabilizing a ship in a storm. Then she sat in the quiet and felt the anger return. The bank had taken her worst week and added pressure for no reason other than suspicion and convenience. They had asked her to prove herself in a lobby while her husband was still fresh in the ground. They had treated her like an exception. And Angela had a strong sense that if she had not called the union, if she had not found the booklet, if Leon had not been the kind of man who believed in keeping the paper trail, she would still be waiting. The next day, she got a message from the branch manager asking her to come in to review her account. The message was friendly, almost warm, like they were offering customer care. Angela went anyway, not because she needed them, because she needed them to see her. The manager greeted her with a smile that tried to reset the story. He said he was glad it was resolved. He said holds happen. He said it was not personal. He said the bank was protecting her. Angela placed Leon's union booklet on the desk between them. She didn't slam it. She placed it flat and steady like evidence. She opened to the disbursement clause. She slid it forward. The manager's smile weakened, just enough to be noticeable. He said he could not comment on union language. Angela told him she did not need his commentary. She needed him to understand that her life was not an algorithm. She told him the bank had a policy and her husband had a contract, and the contract was stronger because it was written for real families in real crisis. Then, Angela asked for something the branch did not like, a written explanation. She wanted a formal letter explaining why her deposit had been flagged, what criteria had been used, and what steps had been taken to clear the hold. She asked for it in writing because she wanted a record, because she no longer trusted verbal explanations, and because if this happened to another widow, she wanted to show her exactly where the bank hid the truth. The manager said he would submit a request. Angela left the branch with a quiet certainty that she needed to keep everything. Every email, every date, every name, every phrase they used. Days later, a corporate email arrived. It apologized without admitting fault. It said the hold was triggered by automated fraud controls and security protocols. It regretted any inconvenience. Inconvenience. Angela read that word and felt a dry laugh rise up. Inconvenience is a flat tire. Inconvenience is a delayed flight. This had been a bank choosing to treat a grieving black widow as a problem to manage. She forwarded the email to Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson replied with a short instruction that sounded like union wisdom distilled into one line. Keep everything. Angela did. Then the story did what these stories do. It got worse before it got better, and it got worse in a way that proved why the paper trail mattered. 2 weeks later, Northbridge froze the joint account again. Not the entire balance. Just a portion. Enough to cause panic. Enough to remind her that she was still at the mercy of their system. Angela discovered it when an autopay draft for her car insurance failed. A failed draft is a small thing until you understand that small failures can stack into disasters. If her car insurance lapsed, she could not safely drive. If she could not drive, she could not work. If she could not work, everything she had just stabilized would start sliding again. She called the bank immediately. This time, the representative said there was an account review related to a previous hold, a follow-up, a compliance step, another phrase that meant the same thing. You do not control your own money when we decide you do not. Angela asked for the senior resolution specialist again. She asked for the corporate unit. She asked for someone who could explain what had changed since the funds had cleared. She did not yell. She did not beg. She spoke like a person writing a record with her voice. The specialist returned her call later that day. The specialist explained that after a large insurance deposit, their system sometimes triggers additional monitoring. The account could be flagged for potential exploitation. The bank needed to ensure the funds were not being moved in a way that suggested coercion or laundering. Angela listened and felt her anger sharpen into something more precise. Because the specialist had finally revealed the bank's story, they were pretending to protect a vulnerable widow, while simultaneously punishing her with freezes that threatened her stability. Angela told the specialist she would provide any documentation needed. She asked what exactly they required. The specialist mentioned identity, proof of source of funds, and confirmation of beneficiary status. Angela told her she already provided those. She asked whether the bank had a written list of requirements. The specialist hesitated, then offered to send a secure message with a checklist. Angela asked for it. Then she asked one more question. Who had authorized the new freeze? That question was not casual. It was the question that makes systems uncomfortable because it shifts the blame from the machine to a person. The specialist said the freeze was system-generated. Angela told her that if the bank could freeze funds through a system, the bank could also release funds through a system. Angela told her she had spoken to the Union Benefits Trust and she was prepared to escalate again, but this time she would also file a complaint with the appropriate regulator. She used the word regulator slowly, because some words change the temperature of a call. The specialist told Angela the bank would review the restriction immediately. Angela ended the call and did the thing Leon would have done without thinking. She documented it. Date, time, name, summary, promised action. She also did something else, a move she never thought she would need. She drafted a complaint for the Consumer Complaint Portal, the kind banks hate because it creates a trackable file outside their control. She did not submit it yet. She held it like a weapon she hoped not to use. That evening, Mr. Dawson called her. He told her the Union Benefits Trust had already heard about a secondary freeze and had contacted Northbridge's corporate compliance again. He told her there was a clause in the contract that covered not just initial access, but ongoing interference. He told her the bank was stepping into territory where it could be accused of violating a disbursement obligation connected to a collectively bargained benefit. Angela asked what that meant in practice. It meant that now it was not just a widow complaining. It was an institution accusing another institution of failing to comply with a contractual duty tied to labor benefits. In plain terms, it meant Northbridge had stopped dealing with a customer and started dealing with a risk to itself. The next morning, the restriction lifted. The autopay draft went through. Her insurance stayed active. The funds were available. Angela did not feel relief. She felt a cold clarity. The bank had done this twice. It could do it again. The only thing that stopped it was pressure from a contract they could not casually ignore. So Angela decided she would not be passive anymore. She scheduled a meeting with Northbridge's branch manager again, not to plead, but to create a record. She brought a written timeline. She brought copies of the bank's corporate emails. She brought the union booklet. She brought a letter from the Benefits Trust confirming the obligation. She brought her own notes. She walked into the branch like she was walking into an interview where she was the one doing the hiring. The manager greeted her with the same polished smile. Angela placed the timeline on the desk. She pointed to the first hold, then the release, then the second freeze, then the release. She asked a question that was simple and deadly. What exactly about her account made her a fraud risk? The manager tried to float above specifics. He talked about automated systems. He talked about security. He talked about protecting customers. Angela told him she did not need marketing language. She needed the bank's criteria. She needed to know whether her account was flagged permanently. She needed to know whether future deposits would be treated the same way. She needed to know whether the bank had created an internal note that would haunt her. That last part hit. The manager's eyes shifted. Internal notes are where systems hide their biases. A note can follow you for years. Angela asked for a copy of any internal note related to the hold. The manager said internal notes were not customer-facing. Angela told him that was fine. She would request them through the proper process. And if the bank refused, she would let the regulator request them. The manager's smile thinned. Angela then made the point that mattered most. Leon's life insurance was part of his compensation. It was bargained for. The bank's hold interfered with that compensation. The bank did not have the right to treat a labor benefit like an optional inconvenience. The manager said he understood her frustration. Angela told him that frustration was not the correct word. She told him what the bank did had consequences. She had lost sleep. She had risked missing payments. She'd been forced to spend her grieving days in bank lobbies and on hold lines. She'd been treated as suspicious, without cause. She asked for a written apology. The manager hesitated, then said the bank did not typically issue apologies in writing. Angela told him she would accept a written explanation instead, including the reason codes associated with the holds. She told him she wanted the bank to correct any internal flag if one existed. She told him she wanted confirmation that her account would not be subject to repeat freezes without documented cause. Angela watched him type into his computer. She watched his posture change as he realized this was no longer a soft customer service moment. It was a documented dispute. A week later, Northbridge sent a formal letter. It was careful. It did not admit discrimination. It did not admit wrongdoing. It stated that security controls may temporarily restrict funds following high-value deposits and that the bank regretted any disruption. It confirmed that the restrictions had been cleared and that the account was in good standing. It offered a small courtesy credit. A courtesy credit is a bank's version of a bandage. Angela read the letter and felt something settle. Not satisfaction, but validation that the bank had been forced to respond. She forwarded the letter to the Union Benefits Trust. The trust thanked her and told her they were tracking patterns. That word, pattern, made Angela pause, because now she saw the larger picture. If a bank was freezing life insurance payouts as fraud risk in a predictable way, then Angela was not alone. Widows and widowers were being slowed down at the exact moment they were least able to fight. People who did not have a union contract in a drawer might never get their money quickly. They might accept the hold as normal and drown quietly in late fees and missed payments. Angela could not stop thinking about that. Months passed. Angela returned to routines, but her faith in the bank did not return with them. She moved savings to a credit union. She changed autopays where she could. She built redundancy the way Leon would have. She kept the union booklet in a more accessible place. Then she got a call from Mr. Dawson. Another widow had reported a similar hold, a similar delay, the same phrases, under review, fraud risk, compliance. This time, the Union Benefits Trust did not treat it as an isolated event. They treated it as a pattern. The trust sent a formal notice to Northbridge's corporate compliance unit referencing the contractual obligation and requesting a review of how life insurance disbursements tied to union benefits were being handled. They requested the bank's written policy. They requested the average hold time. They requested data. Banks do not like data requests from institutions that can escalate. Northbridge responded with process language, then with a promise to improve, then with a revised internal procedure for these deposits. It was not a public announcement. It was a quiet correction, the kind that happens when a bank realizes that what it framed as security might be framed as interference, and interference has consequences. Angela never saw the internal policy, but she heard the outcome in Mr. Dawson's voice. He sounded tired and satisfied at the same time. Angela sat at her kitchen table and looked at the folder that had once been her survival kit. It was thicker now, full of paper she wished she never needed. She felt grief again, the old grief. But it was woven with something else. Pride in Leon's foresight and a hard gratitude for the institution he had trusted. The bank froze her payout because it wanted time and control. The bank called it fraud risk because that phrase is clean and safe and hard to argue with. But Leon's union contract had been written for real life, for death, for chaos, for the moment when a family is at its weakest and the system is tempted to treat them as a file. That contract broke the bank's policy because it forced the bank to do something it does not naturally do. Move quickly for someone it would rather make wait. Angela did not become a finance expert. She did not become a legal crusader. She became something simpler and more dangerous to a careless institution. She became a person who kept everything. And that, in the end, was the reason the bank could not quietly win.